All right, good afternoon, traders. Thanks for joining today's guest speaker webinar. As always, my name is Keith here with Shark Indicators. We've been involved in the NinjaTrader ecosystem since 2011, providing tools like Bloodhound and Blackbird that help traders be more productive and in control of their own trade systems. We're always looking for ways to add to the trader's toolkit, and this webinar is a part of that mission. Before I pass it off, let's take a quick look at the risk disclosure. Futures, foreign currency, and options trading contain substantial risk and is not for every investor. And of course, past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Chris Knox has been trading since 2003 when he retired as a police officer. He started ZoneTraderPro because he was paying for software that didn't work as advertised. It's about as relatable of a situation as I can imagine. He has continued to add tools to his software suite since then. In 2018, he added real-time order flow analysis, and in 2019, he added the ability to analyze and classify large lots and other orders. Then in 2020, he added the ability to analyze the VIX using Bloodhound. So with that, Chris, feel free to share your screen, unmute, and we can get started.
All right, great. Thank you. Welcome, traders. I want to thank you for joining me today. Last few Shark webinars I've done, I have talked a lot about the VIX and why we want to be trading in that direction. And recently I've gone and created some new Bloodhound templates. And what they're going to basically do is talk about how we trade with not only with the VIX, but with the $ tick. And it's some pretty interesting stuff, and have some pretty interesting stuff that occurred real time today, just about an hour ago. So with that, we will get started. We've already talked about our risk disclosure. And again, Keith gave you a history of ZoneTraderPro. Basically began really developing a lot in 2017 with order flow, and then the ability for Ninja to go back and rebuild the tape so that we could see the size of orders. So this has led us to divergences, being able to analyze volume, and being able to analyze the VIX. And I'm not going to talk about some of the good stuff about the divergences or how I analyze volume unless I get some questions about it, or you can talk to me about that personally after the webinar. But for now, let's just stick with the VIX and the tick. So what I'm going to do today is explain my system that I use for entering and exiting trades. I want you to understand what the VIX is and why it's important, and how I use it with ZoneTraderPro. First, we need to understand the VIX because it forms the basis of our trade entries. Our trade entries want to be trading with the options dealers and the VIX trends. The options are important because options dealers need to hedge trades that they have made. This is why I think other trading systems fail, is that they don't take into account something in the options world called gamma, where the zero gamma sits relative to current price. I'm going to show you how options dealers can accelerate a sell-off and how they can stop a sell-off when price is trading in negative gamma, or how they can reduce volatility when it's in positive gamma. But this is not going to be a deep dive like I've done in previous webinars. So basically though, what you need to know is that when options are traded, that options dealer, he needs to have no directional bias. So in order to do this, he's going to hedge the put or the call that he just sold with the ES, NQ, or the SPY. The website that explains this the best is called Spot Gamma. And for full disclosure, I'm a paid subscriber to Spot Gamma. I don't earn any referral fees. The information that I talk about here is information that Spot Gamma distributes and talks about all the time, and basically led me into the research using the VIX with ZoneTraderPro. So this is from Thursday of last week. So we have something that is really current. And the first thing that you need to know is that zero gamma, this idea of zero gamma, sits at 58.73 on Thursday. So we are deeply, deeply into negative gamma. And spot gamma puts out those numbers every day, including where support and resistance sits at. And what you're seeing on this chart right here is the support and resistance that they're basically showing at 5,600 and 5,500. This may be a lot of information that you may not have seen on one simple chart. The ZoneTraderPro indicator on the chart is the core 90D. As core 90D rises, there are more puts being bought. Interesting how 5,600 almost to the tick was resistance. And when we were being sold, and the puts were being sold into that, which is bullish into 5,600. Then the core 90D and the markets reverse. The green and red dots are a proprietary ZoneTraderPro indicator called delta strength. With NinjaTrader order flow, if we filtered for trade size, it is only going to tell us the size of the fill, not the order. And that's super important. What is displayed as a filtered trade is useless because it is just that size of the fill. So somebody sold a 500 lot, but 25 was the largest bid. With NinjaTrader's order flow indicator, you're only going to see a 25. ZoneTraderPro rebuilds the tape to see the size of the order. Whoops. We can see the size of the order. We can also create cumulative deltas and divergences based on large lot trades. There are three distinct parts of this chart. And so we'll set this up. The line in the middle is something that I drew, not something that Spot Gamma drew. But after the market touched 5,600, we see a lot of the red delta strengths coming into the 55.50 area where I've drawn in the black line. When price is touching 55.50, a large number of large lot buys are seen and the market trades around that price level. The third phase of this chart begins right here, and we can see that the third phase of the chart begins right here at about 1245. And that's when 55.50 basically acts as a resistance. A large sell program takes us all the way down to 5,500. Again, we see large lot sell orders in here until we get down to 5,500. And then when we do, the buy orders come in and we instantly trade 40 points higher. We're actually going to trade all the way back up to here eventually. So what happened? Why was this 5,500 support? And 40 points is obviously a very large move in about 30 minutes. Options dealers have sold large put positions that they need to hedge at both 55.50 and down here at 5,500. They're likely what we see as the large lot sells into 55.50 is these guys are hedging their puts that are here and their puts that are here. And when I say there, I mean options dealers. So when the price trades at 55.50, traders holding 55.50 puts roll those positions down to 5,500 or lower. And options dealers can then buy back some of the futures that they held on those options that have been rolled lower. They don't need the complete 100% hedge anymore. This is what is happening from 1127, which is right about here, to 1212, which is right about here. You see all these large delta strengths, and it's likely that these puts, which are now fully in the money if they were at 55.50, are being rolled lower because they're worth a lot of money now. Puts are, as price trades below 55.50 to 5,500, again, dealers must hedge the 5,500 puts until price reaches 5,500, which is down here. Puts are again rolled lower. Dealers buy back those hedges. That's this right here. And we are 40 points higher in about 25 minutes. This is why 5,500 acted as support. And the next chart I'm going to show starts at this 1226 low. So I'm going to be showing you a series of charts, and we're basically going to be looking at this little period right here, which is about a 20-point move. So here's that one point where what I am doing with this chart, this basically begins how I begin my trade selection. I have 4 VIX symbols on the chart. They are the VIX 90, which is this one. They are the VIX, which is the second one. The Core 90D, which is representative of puts being bought and sold, and the volatility of the VIX down here. If I'm looking for a long trade, the VIX should be falling, and like it is right here, and that's where we're going to see Bloodhound giving me a green. If I'm looking for a short trade, VIX should be rising, and Bloodhound is basically telling me this right here. Where you see Bloodhound go to green at 0.1 was that low I just showed you on the previous chart, and then price traded 23 points higher. 0.2 right here was that resistance high, and 3 minutes later we were right here where the VIXs were now in agreement that we were going to be selling off. 0.4 all the way over here is that 5,500 low, and this will start a 50-point trend back to 55.50. That's going to occur right here. So basically, like I've been saying, if we're going to trade against the VIX, we're going to have a hard time of it. Most important to me, though, is the Core 90D down here. The Core 90D followed by the VIX 90, which is up here. I'm looking at these symbols to see if they are above their moving averages. This is basically what I want to see. I want to see them coming off their lows. I'd like to see them above their moving averages and going through my resistance zones for either a long or a short trade. Now, this takes me into the second chart. Again, this is the same time frame, starting with that 23-point move higher into resistance at 55.50. The top panel here, this is the $ tick. And the Bloodhound template I call tick confirm is what I'm using. The second panel is my indicator with the cumulative delta filtered to 25 contracts or more. And that's important. That's going to become important. I'm going to show you a real-time chart from just about an hour ago, and we're going to see how that was important. The third panel is the ES with a special version of my divergence indicator. What it's doing is it's looking for divergences from, in this case, from a high to a low. And there's our high to a low again. Here's another low to a high. And what I'm also doing in these divergences is I am looking for contracts of just 25 or more. So I have the ability to filter this divergence indicator. So the idea is to trade with the tick. What is pretty interesting is right up here, we got this no demand sell signal at the high and basically test of a high. And as you're going to see in my next chart, that is actually a tradable ZoneTraderPro pattern, which I call exhaustion. And like I said, we'll take a look at all the trades that are basically showing up on this chart right here. The bottom panel down here, I want to see the core 90D as I go into a trade. So if I'm going to be going into this long trade right here, what I would like to see is going into that trade, I'd like to see that core 90D dropping. And if I'm going into any one of these short trades right here, I want to see the core 90D rising. It's pretty simple, but this is such a powerful symbol that I keep it on this chart, and I built it as an indicator so I could see it bar by bar. There are 3 unsuccessful trades on this chart, and all 3 that were unsuccessful are these ones in blue. And they were all unsuccessful because they were trading against the $ tick. So the theory about this chart is pretty simple. Where is the tick living? What are the large lots doing? And can I generate trade entries from the divergence indicator? So basically where you see Bloodhound giving me the green, that's where I'm basically saying the tick is living above the 0 line. And when it's below, we're living below the 0 line. And it's just a really cool way to watch what $tick is doing and basically stay in a trade. Next chart. And then this is the spot gamma hero chart. Hero stands for the hedging impact of real-time options. It tells us where there were call buyers in orange and put sellers in blue, creating a bullish impact into that 1242 high. So basically everything the VIX is telling us, this is what spot gamma is telling us also, except in much more detail, where we can actually see both calls being bought and puts being sold. Sometimes you don't have that. Sometimes, going into this low right here, the calls were being sold, but the put buyers were flat that entire time. So sometimes you see them both in confluence and out of. And when they're both going in the same direction, that's obviously what gives us our best moves. You see right here, we're on the spike back up, there was call buying from this low to this high, but the puts continue to be sold. So they do diverge. The charts I just showed you, they also show you the same thing, but it's just in the form of the VIX. I personally find value in this and the other spot gamma tools for my personal trading. So that's why I use them as tools. So this is basically what I've done to create a new template. And this is basically where we're going to put it all together. On this chart, in less than an hour, there were 12 trades where you were trading with the VIX and with divergences. There were 2 exhaustion patterns marking the high up here and the low down here. And these exhaustion trades, they are trend reversal patterns, as you can see. They all worked, but just remember, past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. So the Bloodhound template that you see here is a combination of my two best templates, trading with the VIX and trading with the tick. What is also important to notice on this chart is Bloodhound and how it transitions. So as it's transitioning between buying to selling and back from selling back to buying. And you can see by the percentages of the what's called fuzzy logic in Bloodhound, how we're basically, as we're going into this trade right here, we went from being very bullish to bearish and very bearish heading into that trade right there at 1255. But really important is that on this chart, we basically see some really outsized moves. I personally did a video of this going over some of my real trades from about a week ago. Basically took 10 trades, less than an hour. First 2 trades, you can go back, watch the video. I didn't have this template yet. I was in the process of creating it. I wouldn't have had it till the afternoon. But my first 2 trades were against my template. The next 7 or the next 8 were with it. And of course, when you trade against your system, you're probably going to lose. So those first 2 trades were losers. And then the next 7 out of 8 were all winning trades that I took for 5 points apiece. And I'm doing this with only 2 or 3 micro contracts. I go over all in the video if you want to go back and watch that. But basically, I just dissected my real-time trades. Now, when I'm trading, I basically have these 2 charts in front of me, and one of them has the ES with the tick VIX on it, so I could pretty easily see where I have both the tick and the VIX together. And then in this chart over here, I have the $ tick chart. And again, what I will do is, and I did this in real life with my video, if I see the tick coming off, and this is an area where I want to get long, what I'm basically going to wait for is the Bloodhound to go white if I'm agreeing with this, if I'm agreeing what I'm seeing in real time. And when I go to enter a trade, say I'm entering a trade right here, it's very unusual that we would see a green here, green, and a green tick, because naturally we're going to have a pullback. And where you have those natural pullbacks, the tick is in about 90% of the time going to be white. What I definitely don't want to do is, if I was thinking about shorting this resistance zone right here, I definitely would not be taking the trade if it was against what to confirm is telling me. The other 2 charts I have are the SPY chart, which I have over here, which I'm using to develop divergences and is a proxy for the ES, and my real-time VIX chart with the 4 symbols on it. And basically, I want to consult this before making any trade. I'm just not going to, just because Bloodhound says everything is all green right here, I want to see, especially the Core 90D, what it is doing. Because, for instance, right here at 1541, this is a stop run that happened. The Core 90D is really good at picking that up. I think I have some real-time examples of that. Yesterday, so some of you may be thinking, why do I pay for Hero? And it's a good question. Here's a real-time trade from yesterday. 10:18, I entered a trade right here because it had made basically this triple top. And basically, Hero had been falling from the open. And I could see that right here. Exited my trade exactly on this low right here. Felt pretty good about it, done for the day. Like I said, I do use the Hero and the trace tools because they can develop targets and show you some things. Neil asks, is it easy to pull up the tick and VIX on NinjaTrader? Yeah, it is. Pulling up the tick and VIX on NinjaTrader is just two of the symbols. I'll get to that shortly. But you have to have kinetic in order to do that. And then you have to pay for what I'm doing. I need the CBOE indexes also. So I'll show you that in the real-time charts. And this is what my trade basically looked like from when I opened it right here. I opened it with the $ tick in the red. The only time that I really didn't like, I felt a little bit uncomfortable, was this period right here from 10:37 to 10:40 when we got this 10-point retracement. And basically down here, part of the reasons I didn't like it is there was a ZoneTraderPro pattern down here that we basically had realized that, but we really hadn't started to sell off with our Core 90D until we basically got back to the highs, held the trade, and like I said, exited on this little deal right there. If you do purchase ZoneTraderPro, I train you in all of this stuff, including the volume analysis, the divergences, and the patterns. It's basically, well, it was done over Skype. We're going to have to start doing it over Zoom now because Skype is folding. But we can, everything I do personally with anybody that purchases ZoneTraderPro. Now, before I get and Peter, if you have a question, go ahead and type it into the chat, and I will get to that. Let me go to some of the real-time charts real quick. So this is kind of interesting what we had going on back here, back at 1426. And I'll just make this a little bit larger. So what was really interesting is back at this high back here, basically first we got divergence, but then it broke. But what I look at is the $ tick just going like that. And by this time at the high, we basically have we had $ tick living below the 0 line. And again, we got this really good sell-off. And, you know, that's it. It goes white maybe about 2 points after the sell-off. What was also interesting is going into this, again, I want to know what is happening with Core 90D. And we can see that the Core 90D was rising going into this. So we have both the tick falling. We have our cumulative delta filtered for 25 contracts. We have that falling. And so we basically had a couple types of divergences going on, both tick and with the contracts of the filtered delta. And that, you know, we traded from about 74 down to about 64. So about a nice 10-point drop. Again, we can see what's happening when the tick is above zero. This would have been what I would consider a high risk trend trade for a short. Again, that's a pattern. We're not really talking about patterns, but I would teach you that this is something that would be high risk. But if you did take it because, you know, you're a little greedy or something, well, by the time that this thing goes green, you haven't lost any money yet, and you're given the full opportunity to get out. That's really what's important. Is this the way I've got this set up? You know, you can see going into that the large lots were being bought at that point, and a point which you can exit for a scratch. Whereas right here, we've got another couple of trades where we're trading the special divergences with the dollar sign tick. And then right as we were getting ready, we had this, we had some really, I didn't have the news on because Keith and I were talking, but we had this very large lot go off right here, and then a second large lot taking us back down, and then a third, some kind of news breaking, which initially the computers obviously read it as bullish. We did trade a little bit higher. This pattern right here suggests to me that there was distribution because we can't trade any higher than this 81. And then we end up trading lower. And again, a nice little sell signal right here, a nice little sell signal right here. Again, you know, it fully comes within my criteria where tick is living below zero. Again, you will have a white background here. That's not unusual, but we then look at our cumulative delta. We like to see that. We look at our core 90D rising. We like to see that. So something really interesting happened 10 minutes before we went live. Okay, Kirk says, you mentioned divergences. Is this divergences between the ES and the tick or the VIX? Can you clarify? Sure. These divergences are happening in my cumulative delta right here. I also have divergences on my ES chart. And this ES chart right here is, again, this is live. And this is showing divergences. It's all in the ES contract itself. The software does show tick divergences also. Let me see if I could find one. right here on this exhaustion pattern right here. Again, nice reason for a trade. There's a divergence in $ tick right there. Now, this Bloodhound template is what I call tick VIX. And especially when we have some sort of very liquid market, like going into right here, you see these outside moves. And what tick VIX is doing is that is when both the combination of the trend, which is this right here, and the $ tick are both in the same direction. So basically here we had one out of the 4 signals. Here we have 2, and we traded almost about 10 points higher after that. Same thing right there. We have this divergence. Again, the divergence here is the indicator is picking up filtered contracts for 25 or more. I do have my regular divergence indicator, which I would normally also have on this chart, but I took it off just in case I needed to reload the indicator quickly. So the regular indicator would be looking for all types of divergences. So it would be looking for divergences of distribution between a high to a high, accumulation between a low to a low, special divergences that weren't filtered, and what you would basically call regular divergence. And regular divergence is something that I personally do not care about anymore. I just completely disregard it. The only thing that I care about are the divergences that are created from the low to the high, high to the low, and what is marked as accumulation and distribution. But like I said, I don't really even have a chart up to talk about those accumulation or distribution divergences. Does that pretty much answer your question, Kirk? And is there any other questions? Yeah, when I asked my programmer for a divergence indicator, he initially didn't want to do that and create that for me because it was a little bit difficult. And I said, look, I have this thing, it's called money, it's green. Can you please do this for me? And he eventually said, yeah. And when I ended up getting the indicator back, I had no idea that I was going to get these extra kinds of divergences. And I can just pull this up and show you to this real quick. So here is the divergence indicator working on the ES. And so basically what it did is it did found distribution here and here. Regular divergence is this thing right here, which is, like I was saying, is something that I ignore. When something is labeled in blue, that means that the divergence busted. So accumulation and distribution divergence What that cannot do is that cannot break or equal the high right here. So, or it will bust. These numbers down here and above here is what I call my volume analysis. And uh, um, they tell me about the distribution and the uh, accumulation. Mark asks a good question. Does anything redraw? And this is kind of like the number one thing that when I created my system, I didn't want to have things redrawing. So I gave a real strict kind of definition for entries in a trade. And so basically right here, we have this exhaustion pattern, which does a nice job of reversing a trend. And right here is where that symbol would start to paint. For the exhaustion pattern only, it would continue to paint all the way down to this blue, because about 40% of exhaustion patterns are what this is, which is a test of a low or a test of a high. So the window, as you would say, for an exhaustion pattern is somewhat wider. For this trend trade right here, it painted right there. It stopped painting right there, but that was only because we touched my intermediate support and went higher. You notice how the arrows stop painting right here for these patterns. Now, the other thing that does is the divergence indicator itself, because the divergence indicator itself is not like this line in the sand that just stopped right here. Now, what happened is we began to get a divergence right here. When we have the zigzag, it begins to analyze for divergence. And then if we still have divergence here, it's going to draw there. As it goes higher, it's still going to analyze and it will draw there. So this one, when we went higher right there, that's why this one went blue before it equaled the high, because it analyzed on this bar right here that we were no longer in distribution. So that's basically why it will stop. Now, so just to be absolutely clear, the divergence indicator does repaint, because it's not telling you that this is in stone. It's only telling you that a divergence is present, but it's not giving you the go indicator. The go sign is what we talked about at the beginning of the webinar. I want to see that my VIX is going in my favor, and I want to see at what point the tick is going in my favor before I'm going to make this trade right there. So I hope that answers your question. Nothing on our VIX chart is going to draw. The only thing that could redraw here, because everything is really based on cumulative delta and numbers. Again, this divergence indicator could show divergent here and could show that it was still divergent at this point right here. So that's, I hope I've been really clear that the divergence indicator does repaint if it is still divergent. All right, FPS, so when multiple moving averages from the 4 vol assets align, then only trades in the same direction are taken. Yeah, basically when I have what I'm doing is I want these to be coming off their high, going in my direction, trading below their moving averages. I really don't keep any stats on it because NinjaTrader is very against anything that has a stat, just kind of a vendor-oriented thing. If you present stats, you have to keep them updated like regularly, like every week. So no, I don't go in and create stats because they would um, need to be uh, updated constantly. I have done week in review videos, and those week in review videos look at when we are in a trend. So let me bring that up. Be easier here. So what I've done is I have created videos where if you're trading with the trend and you're trading with a divergence, I've looked at weeks worth of trades and basically, again, past performance, not necessarily indicative of future results. I want to be very clear there. There's basically about a 70%, a little bit higher than that, statistical winning average. When there's a combination of divergences on both the SPY and the ES, the number actually gets up to 90. But all of those were done before I had my $tick template and indicator to kind of guide me. Basically, now I would filter a trade if I had the opposite signal from $tick. Before, on those other videos, that something like that wouldn't be filtered. So you really can't, like I said, I intentionally don't create any stats, so I can't say what percentage of the time this stuff is aligned. My advice is, what I basically say is this: my system isn't made to catch every zig and every zag that the market presents itself. My system is designed so that we can have some very good opportunities, like I showed you this afternoon, where we can have some pretty high confidence in taking our trades, by just looking at what our filtered cumulative delta, what our tick is doing, and what our VIX is doing. So we get paid not only to interpret what we see on the chart, but we also get paid to sit on our hands if something just isn't right. So here is the trend template, which is the trends based on $VIX. So, like I said, you can see the entry that we'd have here. And again, what I would tell you in training, this is that same trade where I told you it was a bad idea to do that because of the patterns that were created. If you did it, again, the $tick gets you out right there. The $VIX gets you out right there. So it's pretty powerful when you can see when you're wrong. And that's really rather than like looking for an 80% of the time something happens, I would rather know when I'm wrong and be able to pull that and get out of that. So I hope that basically answered the question. So one can sell no demand? Absolutely. That's what, see, no demand right here is that price was higher by at least 3.5 points, but the cumulative delta was lower. The opposite is true for no supply right here. As price went down, the cumulative delta was actually higher. So that is what this no supply and no demand is. You would think that our delta from the high to the low would be negative. And you would think that the delta from the low to the high would be positive. Well, it was just the opposite in both of these cases. Now, I don't recommend, I can't recommend anything, but I wouldn't be taking something like this or something like this where we're trading against the VIX and the dollar sign tick. I'm just not interested in that. I want to be trading with the VIX, with the tick, and that pretty much right here fulfills that requirement. Again, we have another small little trade right here, good for about 3.5 points, but you're taking it right at a high. Again, not something that we're definitely going to be doing a lot of here. Again, this is only about 45 minutes ago. Our trend is short. Our VIXs are short, and there's our filtered divergence. So that's basically what I'm going to be looking for. And you combine it with dollar sign tick. And that's exactly what I want to see. I know my VIXs are short. My cumulative delta is going lower. I have the no demand, and I have a rising core 90D into that. I mean, that's as picture perfect as you can basically get. And that's why you sell no demand. So basically what's happening in no demand is people are lifting their offers. So price is rising unnaturally. And that's what this divergence is meant to pick up, is that this didn't go higher because there was 1,000 delta in market orders. It went higher because people lifted their bid, their orders on the bid. And that's what we're basically looking for in this. In the accumulation distribution, where we're looking at these, basically what we have is more resistance being put in a shorter period of time between the low to the high than we had from the high to the low. So there's more resistance here than there was support there. Same goes for right here. There was more resistance here than there was support down here. What is the name of the white chart template? This one right here? This doesn't have a bloodhound template on it. I just pulled it up really quick so that I could show you divergences. So here we have another divergence and another divergence. If I throw a bloodhound on it, it's going to do all of its computations and would just lock up. So that's why I pulled up a fresh chart. Again, the divergences that I'm interested in are these right here, these two right here. And let me, this is kind of interesting right here. Remember, this is for all contracts. I didn't set a filter on this. So as we went from the low to the high, the delta, which is this number up here, was a negative 112. So that's why we get this no demand right here. And then as we came down, we have accumulation divergence as a buy signal. So these are basically the two symbols in about a 1 minute time that I would be looking to trade. But of course, without knowing what the tick was or anything like that. Yeah. And yes, I do put this on the SPY chart, and I do also analyze the SPY chart also to look for divergences. Basically, though, for the webinar, I shut it down just to make sure we don't get locked up. So there are actually more divergences that occur on SPY than occur on the ES. And again, really, just a nice set of trades right here where we were in a strong trend, we got our special divergence buy, but then we could get out of that pattern in real time because we had our distribution divergence. And basically what I tell everybody that talks to me is finding a trade isn't the hard part. Once you're in the trade, and maybe I was looking for 5 points out of this, and my target is set at 75 even. The hard part is actually getting out of a trade when you have a conflicting signal, and a lot of times you do. And that's really the hardest part about trading with my system. I can find trades all day long. I generally set a 4.5, but usually a 5-point target. And the hardest part comes in getting to that 5th point. And yeah, Neil, there will be a recording. Keith started the recording, and I'm going to guess that will go out. So let me try to bring up our one of the other charts that I do have up right now is this is the basically what I call my overview chart. And again, normally I'd have my divergence and my volume analysis on this. And what this is doing is it's looking for even larger lot trades. So this was that little news event that had a bunch of large lots going off in regards to it, and then the sell-off. But this is what I like to use to basically see where we have options being traded, large lots of options being traded. And that was one of the first slides. Here you can see back here, it picked up a trade of over 1,000 lots. And that obviously took the market down. You can see right here, this is why I have the Core 90D on it. There's the trade being made. There is the 1,000 lots being sold. Again, just really kind of interesting. I understand the nice clean white chart, but what I like to do is I like to put a lot of information in front of my eye because I only have two screens. I trade with just two screens. And so that's why when we see this tick chart right here and we see this VIX chart right here, these really have all the information I need to see and all compacted into two little charts. I have my VIX information, I have my tick information, I have my large lot information, and I also have these divergence information, this divergence information. So basically, I do try to put a lot of stuff in front of my eyes where I will see it, and because screen space to me is precious. Steve, no, I don't have a trading room, but you're welcome to give me a call and I will bring you to my screens live, just like we're looking at right here. And you can watch it live, ask any questions that you do have. Basically, I really want people to understand what I'm doing, but I have one user bought the system about 1.5 years ago, and he had only been trading about 6 months, completely redid what I was doing, and with what he did, became a funded trader. Using all the same tools, but just a completely different approach. There's a website on the front page of my website about my interview with him. Although the lighting on my part kind of went away towards the end of the video, it's a pretty interesting video. And he shares his thoughts about what he did to change my system. But it does have that flexibility where you can take it and do your own thing. Daryl, I use Kinetic for my data. Is that new guy on your website? Yeah. Desmond, he's on the front page of the website, there is that video link, ZoneTraderPro.com. Just to kind of wrap it up, if you are interested in seeing this and let's do that again. If you are interested, basically I do give a $200 discount off of the price. And the only thing is, I just don't want to use PayPal. So there's several options that we don't have to give money to PayPal. And I'll give you an extra discount if that is something that you're interested in. Basically, if we don't use PayPal, I can do digital delivery where I will come to your system and install everything, get everything set up, and then we immediately start training. That the training lasts basically about 5 sessions. So it's about a week and a half, depending on how fast you want to go. So with that, um, really don't have anything else. Like I said, Mark, anybody is welcome to uh, give me a call and join me uh, through Skype until May when Skype crashes for good. But if you two or three people want to join on a joint call and ask questions and watch, um, that's basically what I'm here to do. Is somebody wants to see, then I have I can share my screens and basically give you a play-by-play about what I see, which is, right in here. That's, that's basically how I do this. Um, again, everything can be analyzed. Do I want to do this? What's positive, what's negative? And it's basically how you learn to make a decision. Uh, Thank you, Will. Um, Anybody else have any questions? Other than that, I'll turn it back over to Keith.
All right, thanks for presenting. Yeah, thanks for lots of good questions and participation, guys. Steve is asking about the trial and all that. I'm not sure about the details, but be sure to visit ZoneTraderPro.com. It's where you can learn more and reach out to Chris directly. In case anyone came late or was curious, our role is what you see on his charts. Those vertical green and red stripes, those are signals coming from Bloodhound, which was our original and still most popular product. So definitely, if you're curious about that, I know many of you already have Bloodhound because Chris is so integrated with it. But if you're curious about how he was able to produce custom signals, saying, looking at my indicators, looking at my price action, according to my rules, give me a visual signal or audio signal whenever my rules are met to help add visual information, help clean up my charts. And then some people take it to the next level and use those signals as triggers to automate their trades, the entries and even exits automatically. So if you're new to all this, there is a free trial of Shark Indicator stuff, Bloodhound and Blackbird the Auto Trader. And Chris knows a lot about those and is even able to sell them. If you get excited about what Bloodhound can do for you, his system integrates very well with that, and he's able to sell that as a vendor. So we love having Chris in our ecosystem. We always get really good feedback about what you do over there at Zone Trader Pro. So, any last minute questions, put it in chat in the next few seconds. Otherwise, we will end it here and hope you enjoy your day. You will get a follow-up email tomorrow from Zoom if you registered for this webinar with the link to the video recording in case you missed some. So let's see. Shark Indicators, do you provide support for NinjaTrader 7? Support is a strong word. So we've been around since 2012. So we have a NinjaTrader version of Bloodhound and even Blackbird, but it's sort of the final version, basically. So it's any new features we've added since we moved to NinjaTrader 8, I think in 2019, won't be in there, but the core features are still there. I would encourage you if you don't have a good reason not to, I would say, look into Ninja 8 because all the bug fixes and new features are there, including we're working on a feature that lets us tie in to NinjaTrader's optimizer, which is really cool. We're working hard on that. It's taken a little longer than we expected, but probably in the next couple months. You're going to be able to say, looking at various Bloodhound settings or even Blackbird trade management settings, optimize those across a range of rules, timeframes, etc., to find the best results, and then work backwards from there to make the most of it. So we have more info if you're curious about that, but this is a webinar for Chris, so I don't want to get too deep into the weeds on our stuff. So Blackbird strategy also included with the price. So I'm not sure what Chris, I think Chris's focus is primarily on Bloodhound in our world. Is that right, Chris? Your focus is less on Blackbird just for your personal setup?
That's correct.
Okay.
Because what I want to do is I want to have the control over what I see, especially on the VIX charts that are basically being, and the tick chart, which are basically in real time. So that's where I want to have a little bit of the discretion. And just to really quickly answer Steve's question about a trial. No, Steve, there's not a trial, because what I do is I probably put in at least 10 hours before you can understand everything. So it's that personal effort that I'm putting in, and it's just not like I can give you a trial and I want to see you succeed. That's why I personally do the training. I just don't say, here's a video and go for it. And that's really the that's really the reason.
Yeah,
So
and if you see that we offer a trial and you're like, why does Chris not? Well, Chris is far more hands-on. It's a totally different world. We are tool builders. We are not trade coaches. And so we're able to offer a free trial so you can play with the tools, and hopefully they'll be in your toolkit for years. Chris is going to commit a lot more actual personable time to kind of help you take that next step. So I hope that does seem fair from the way you described it. But yeah, as for Blackbird, we do actually have quite a lot of people who buy Bloodhound through Chris for what he has to offer. He's built up quite a community. And then they start looking into our stuff and they realize, hey, I've got Bloodhound. I love it for use with Chris's stuff, but I want to take it to the next level. I want to basically replace Ninja's ATM, which is why I call Blackbird the ATM on steroids. Because if you are looking to add trade management and automation to whatever degree you're comfortable with automation, you can start incorporating those things in a much easier way than trying to code your own strategy, because not everybody wants to do everything manual. Maybe you want to automate the entry or automate the stop loss trailing, etc. So if any of that sounds interesting, come on in. We have a free trial, and obviously check out what Chris has to offer, because I don't think I've ever had negative feedback. And we've been working with Chris, or at least had Chris in our ecosystem for like a decade now. So that gives me a lot of confidence to say go check him out.
one of the to add to the Blackbird, I actually did use Blackbird, and the way I used it is not in the full auto mode, but I would enable it when a set of conditions look like that I wanted to be met. And this is actually why I created the chart with tick fix, because when this is something where it actually would be auto tradable in the right conditions. So that's really where if somebody wanted to go and do that, that's where they would do it with my stuff, is looking at either tick fix or this chart with tick confirm. Because if we know we want to be short from this period back here, we can see things moving. We can see cumulative delta dropping and core 90D rising. You can then switch Blackbird into where it's like loaded and ready to go. And that is actually a very good purpose for the Blackbird with my stuff. So you wouldn't miss the entry if you had what you saw as the setup and you didn't want to jump it.
And there's little
and you did,
modifications you can do to the Bloodhound signals to make it a little cleaner for the purpose of automated entries. But yeah, and that's the thing. We advertise, we talk a lot about automation because it's a buzzword. It gets people's attention. Say, hey, I want to automate my trades. But what often they don't realize is you don't have to automate everything. You can say, I'm going to get in manually and just automate the trailing actions, things like that. So it's pretty cool. Well, anyway, looks like we've got all the questions answered. Any last minute comments on your part, Chris? Otherwise, we'll end the webinar and let people enjoy the rest of their day.
no, Keith, I'm good. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in, guys. ZoneTraderPro.com and SharkIndicators.com to learn more. Take care. Bye.